Captain Jung Kim stood at the main window of Earth Defense Force headquarters. His eyes were fixed on the sky. The alarm had gone off 15 minutes ago. Now everyone could see them. 5 massive ships hanging in the blue sky like dark stars. "Sir, we're getting a signal," said Lieutenant Hannah Park. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook slightly as she worked at her station. June nodded. "Put it on screen." The main screen lit up. A face appeared. It looked almost human, but with gray-blue skin and eyes too large and too dark. When it spoke, its mouth moved strangely. "People of Earth, I am Commander Rax of the Talon Fleet. We come in peace and wish to speak with your leaders." June looked at Director Ta Li, who had just rushed into the room. Ta nodded and stepped forward. "This is Director Ta Li of the Earth United Nations. We welcome peaceful contact. May I ask why you have come to our planet?" Commander Rax smiled. It was not a warm smile. "We seek allies in our war against the Kreth Empire. They threaten all peaceful worlds. We offer friendship and advanced technology in exchange for your help." 3 days later, Jun found himself in a large meeting room. Talon officials sat across from Earth's military and political leaders. Models of Talon ships and weapons filled the table between them. "This is our standard battle cruiser," said a Talon officer, pointing to a sleek model. "Powered by dark energy, capable of speeds 5 times that of light." June watched as the Talons displayed more technology: plasma weapons, energy shields, and computers that seemed to read thoughts. When Earth's generals showed their own weapons, guns, missiles, and fighter jets, the Talons exchanged looks. One Talon officer picked up a bullet and rolled it between his fingers. "How quaint. You still use chemical propellants and metal projectiles." Lieutenant Hannah Park, sitting beside June, whispered, "Did you see that? They think we're children playing with toys." June nodded slightly. He had noticed too. The Talons barely hid their feelings. They thought Earth's weapons were ancient and weak, but they still wanted an alliance. That was strange. After the meeting, Jun pulled Director Tay aside. "Sir, something doesn't feel right. They act like our technology is from the Stone Age, but they're eager for our help against these Kreth enemies." Director Ta looked troubled. "I noticed that too. But we can't ignore this chance to gain advanced technology. We'll proceed carefully." The next week brought more meetings. The Talons wanted Earth's resources, metals, water, and permission to build bases on the moon. In return, they offered ships and weapons that seemed magical to human eyes. During a demonstration, Commander Rax showed a small device that could power a city. "This is a simple power unit we can provide immediately," he said. "It will replace your nuclear plants." He said the words as if they tasted bad. Engineer Suk Kim was assigned to study the Talon technology. She worked closely with a Talon scientist named Vex. While Vex explained their systems, Suk noticed something on his screen, what looked like Earth military files. "What are those?" she asked, pointing. Vex quickly changed the screen. "Just background research, to help us understand your needs better." That night, Suk told Captain Jun what she had seen. "They're scanning our systems without permission." Meanwhile, Colonel Da Yun was watching Talon military drills. Their weapons were powerful, but relied heavily on computers and energy systems. He made careful notes about what he saw and what he didn't see. Later, as Earth's leaders prepared to sign a limited agreement with the Talons, Director Ta pulled his most trusted people into a private room: Jun, Hannah, Dai, and Suk. "I want honest opinions," Ta said. "Do we trust them?" Hannah spoke first. "They look at us like we're stupid children. Why would advanced beings need our help?" "And they're accessing our systems without asking," added Suk. Colonel Da nodded. "Their technology is impressive, but I see gaps. They rely too much on energy weapons and computers, almost like they've forgotten simpler ways to fight." Director Ta looked at Captain Jun. "And you, Captain?" Jun took a deep breath. Sir, I think we should sign the agreement. But we should also prepare for the possibility that the Talons are not telling us everything about this war of theirs. Ta nodded slowly. I agree. We'd proceed with the alliance, but with our eyes wide open. Outside, the Talon ships glowed softly in the night sky, beautiful and threatening at the same time. 1 month after the Talons' arrival, engineer Suk Kim stood in a large hangar watching a demonstration. The Talon scientist Vex held up what looked like a small glass ball. This is a basic plasma cannon, Vex said. He pointed the device at a thick metal target. Observe. A bright blue beam shot from the ball. The metal target didn't just melt. It vanished in a flash of light. General Han, standing next to Suk, let out a low whistle. That would take one of our tanks 10 shots to do. Vex smiled. Your weapons use explosions to push metal. Very simple. He said the word like he meant stupid. We use energy itself. Much more advanced. Suk noticed that even when Vex tried to be polite, he couldn't hide how backward he thought humans were. Later that day, Suk was given permission to examine some Talon devices. In a special lab, she carefully took apart a small Talon computer. Inside, she found strange crystals and metals that seemed to change color as she watched. Don't touch that directly, Vex warned, walking into the lab. Your primitive gloves won't protect you from the energy field. Suk nodded and put the device down. How does it work? It uses thought patterns as input, Vex explained. Much faster than your, what do you call them? Keyboards. While Suk worked with the Talon technology, Colonel Da-Yoon was conducting his own research. In a secure room deep under the Earth Defense Headquarters, he reviewed videos of Talon ships and weapons. Play that again, he told his assistant. The screen showed a Talon soldier firing at a moving target. The blue energy beam missed when the target suddenly changed direction. Notice that? Dai asked. Their weapons are powerful, but slow to adjust aim. And look here. He pointed to another video of a Talon ship. Their shields flicker when hit by multiple small impacts rather than one big one. Day made careful notes. The Talons had amazing technology, but it had weaknesses too. Their ships and weapons were designed to fight enemies with energy weapons like their own. But Earth still used physical bullets and bombs, old technology the Talons saw as useless. Maybe that was important. Meanwhile, Captain Jun Kim attended high-level meetings between Earth leaders and the Talons. In one meeting, Commander Rax showed videos of the Kreth Empire's attacks on other worlds. The Kreth destroy all in their path, Rax said. With our help, Earth can be safe from them. Director Ta nodded. We appreciate your concern for our safety. When might we expect the Kreth to reach our solar system? Commander Rax looked uncomfortable. It is difficult to say, but we must prepare now. After the meeting, Lieutenant Hannah Park approached June in the hallway. Sir, I've been monitoring Talon communications, she said quietly. They're talking to each other much more than they're talking to us. And they've been scanning all our military bases from orbit. June frowned. That wasn't part of our agreement. That night, June, Hannah, Suk, and Colonel Dai met in Director Tae's secure office. Report, said Ta. Suk went first. Their technology is amazing, but they won't explain how most of it works. They just want us to use it, not understand it. Day nodded, and I found weaknesses in their systems. Their weapons and shields are designed for energy combat, not physical projectiles. They might be vulnerable to our primitive weapons. They're scanning our bases without permission, Hannah added. And their story about the Kreth Empire has holes. The timeline doesn't make sense. Director Tae turned to June. Captain, what do you think? June took a deep breath. I think we need to be very careful about what Talon technology we allow into our systems. And we should start secret preparations, just in case. In case of what? Asked Suk. In case the Talons aren't really here to help us, Jun said. In case they're here to help themselves to our planet. Director Ta stood up. From now on, we have two plans. The public plan is continued cooperation with the Talons. The private plan. He looked at each person in the room. The private plan is to prepare for the possibility that the Talons are not our friends. Outside the window, a Talon ship glided silently across the night sky, its lights blinking like cold stars. 6 months had passed since the Talons arrived. On the surface, everything seemed fine. Talon technology was appearing in major cities. Their clean energy units powered buildings. Their medical devices saved lives in hospitals. Many people saw the aliens as saviors, but not Intelligence Officer Ji Kang. Jai sat in a small dark room deep beneath the Earth Defense Headquarters. Around him, screens showed information from many sources. For weeks, he had been gathering data, and what he found troubled him. "Computer, show me the Kreth Empire attacks again," he said. The screen displayed a map of nearby star systems. Red dots showed where the Talons claimed the Kreth had attacked. Ji frowned. Something wasn't right. He pulled up another screen showing trade routes between stars. Then he added information about resources on different planets. A pattern emerged. The red dots weren't random. They all marked resource-rich worlds or important trade points. "Computer, show me images of Kreth ships from Talon records." The screen showed dark, angular vessels. Ji compared them to other images his team had secretly gathered from Talon databases. "Enlarge this section," he said, pointing. The computer zoomed in on a small symbol on one of the Kreth ships. Ji's eyes widened. It wasn't a Kreth symbol at all. It belonged to a species called the Vorta, who, according to other Talon records, had been peacefully added to the Talon Alliance 3 years ago. Jai reached for his secure phone. 1 hour later, Ji Kang and Lieutenant Hannah Park stood before Captain Jun Kim and Director Ta Li. The room was completely secure. No electronic devices allowed inside. "What's so urgent?" Director Ta asked. Ji took a deep breath. "Sir, I believe the Kreth Empire doesn't exist, at least not the way the Talons described it." Jun leaned forward. "Explain." Jai opened a paper folder and spread photos on the table. "These are images of supposed Kreth attacks, but look at the ships closely. They belong to different species, and all these species have one thing in common. They all refuse to join the Talon Alliance." Hannah pointed to another document. "I've analyzed Talon communication patterns. They talk about harvesting and integration when discussing Earth, not terms you use for allies." Director Ta's face darkened. "Are you suggesting the Talons are lying about this war?" "Not just lying," Ji said. "I believe the Talons are the real empire. They find worlds with resources they need, pretend to form alliances, then take over once their technology is integrated into the planet's systems." Jun looked at the evidence. "How many worlds?" "At least 7 in the last 20 years, Ji answered. "Their pattern is always the same. They arrive claiming to need help against an enemy. They offer amazing technology. Then, once that technology is deeply embedded in the planet's infrastructure, they take control." Director Ta stood up and walked to the window. Outside, a Talon ship hovered over the city. "Why Earth?" he asked. "There must be other planets with resources." Hannah pointed to a star chart. "Earth sits at a strategic point between several star clusters, and we have something rare, liquid water in massive quantities, plus diverse life forms. Most worlds they've taken were much less rich in biology." "And our technology?" Jun asked. Ji smiled for the first time. "They think we're primitive. Our reliance on physical weapons, combustion engines, and basic computers makes them see us as easy targets. They don't respect our technology at all." Director Ta turned back to the group. "How long until they make their move?" "Based on previous patterns," Ji said, "about 3 more months. They like to establish their power units in major cities first. Those units can do more than provide power. They can also shut down all electricity in their area." Ta nodded slowly. So we have 3 months to prepare, but we must appear to still trust them. Sir, said Jun, I have an idea. What if we use their underestimation of us as an advantage? They think our weapons are outdated and weak. They won't be prepared for what those weapons can really do. Director Ta looked at each person in the room. From this moment, we begin Operation Trojan Horse. We will keep smiling at our friends while we prepare for war. As they spoke, more Talon ships entered Earth's atmosphere, their lights blinking with cold purpose. The next day, Director Ta called a secret meeting. Only the top military leaders from around the world attended. The room was deep underground, with no electronic devices allowed. What I am about to tell you does not leave this room, Director Ta said. He explained what Ji Kang had discovered about the Talons. When he finished, the room was silent. How can we fight such advanced beings? Asked one general. Colonel Da Yun stepped forward. By using what they think is our weakness, our outdated technology. Over the next weeks, Operation Trojan Horse began. On the surface, Earth continued to welcome Talon technology. Leaders smiled in public meetings. Engineers like Suk Kim worked closely with the aliens. But beneath this friendly face, Earth prepared for war. Colonel Da led the military preparations. The Talons rely on advanced energy weapons and computer systems, he told his officers. But these have weaknesses. Their ships are vulnerable to simple metal projectiles, bullets, railgun slugs, even old missiles, because their shields are designed to stop energy weapons. In secret bases around the world, soldiers trained with weapons the Talons had never seen or had dismissed as primitive. Meanwhile, engineer Suk Kim studied the Talon technology for weaknesses. She discovered something important in her lab one night. Look at this, she told Captain Jun, showing him a small Talon device. When I send a strong electromagnetic pulse through it, the system crashes. Their technology can't handle old-fashioned EMP attacks. Jun nodded. Can we build EMP weapons that would affect their ships? Better than that, Suk said with a smile. We still have nuclear weapons. A high-altitude nuclear burst creates a massive EMP that could disable their systems without destroying their ships. While the military prepared, Intelligence Officer Ji Kang worked with Lieutenant Hana Park on another aspect of defense. The Talons will try to use their power units to shut down our systems, Jai explained to Director Ta. So we're creating a separate hidden power grid using old technology they won't expect. Hana added, we're also setting up analog communication systems, radio, Morse code, even signal flags, things the Talons would never think to block because they're so primitive. Director Ta approved all these plans. What about our digital systems? The Talons have already connected to many of them. Jai smiled. We're feeding them what they expect to see. Meanwhile, we're moving our real operations to isolated systems they can't access. Across the globe, old military bases were quietly reactivated. Nuclear missile silos, long empty, received new weapons. Analog radios were distributed to military units. Paper maps replaced digital ones. Captain Jun oversaw perhaps the most important part of the plan, maintaining the illusion of cooperation. The Talons must believe we trust them completely, he told his team. Smile. Act impressed by their technology. Never show suspicion. Jun himself met regularly with Commander Rax, sharing carefully selected information about Earth's defenses, always highlighting the digital systems the Talons could easily disable. We're very grateful for your help upgrading our defense grid, Jun told Rax during one meeting. Rax nodded, his large eyes blinking slowly. Your world will soon be much safer. The new power units will be online in all major cities within 2 weeks. Excellent news, Jun said, smiling while his heart raced. 2 weeks. That matched Ji's prediction exactly. That night, Director Ta met with his core team. The Talons will make their move in 2 weeks, he said. Are we ready? Colonel Da nodded. Military preparations are at 90%. We need more time, but we'll fight with what we have. My EMP devices are ready, said Sook, and we've modified several nuclear weapons for high-altitude detonation. Jai and Hannah reported next. Backup communications are in place, and we've prepared false targets to draw their fire away from our real bases. Director Ta looked at each of them. Earth's fate depends on this plan. The Talons think our weapons are toys, our technology a joke. Soon they'll learn how wrong they are. Above them, more Talon ships arrived each day, positioning themselves over Earth's major cities. The day the Talons made their move started like any other. The sun rose over cities where Talon ships hung in the sky like silent watchers. At exactly noon, it began. In the Earth Defense Headquarters, all screens suddenly went dark. Emergency lights flashed on. It's happening, Captain Jun Kim said calmly. He looked at Lieutenant Hannah Park. Start Protocol Delta. Across the globe, digital systems crashed. Power grids failed. Communications networks went silent. Panic spread through cities as Talon power units, installed in every major center, sent out signals that disabled Earth's technology. On the main Talon ship, Commander Rax watched with satisfaction. The first step had worked perfectly. Earth's primitive defenses were now blind and silent. Open communication channels to all Earth governments, he ordered. Rax's face appeared on emergency screens in government buildings worldwide. People of Earth, he said, his voice smooth but cold. The Talon Alliance has determined that your world requires direct management. Your technology and government structures are too primitive to face galactic challenges. From this moment, Earth is under Talon protection and control. In the underground command center, Director Ta Li watched Rax's message on an old television set powered by a generator. Right on schedule, he said. He turned to Colonel Da-Yun. Begin Phase 2. Colonel Dan nodded and picked up an old-style radio handset. All units, execute Deep Shadow. I repeat, execute Deep Shadow. Across the planet, military bases that appeared to be disabled suddenly went dark on Talon scanners. Hidden installations powered up, using systems the Talons couldn't detect. Soldiers moved to positions prepared weeks before. On the Talon command ship, an officer approached Commander Rax. Sir, we're detecting unusual activity. Many Earth military installations have disappeared from our scans. Rax frowned. Impossible. Their systems should be disabled. They are, sir, but we're still detecting movement on the ground, and our sensors show old-style radio signals being transmitted. Rax's frown deepened. They're using backup systems we didn't know about. No matter. Begin Phase 2. Deploy ground forces to secure their government centers. Talon ships released smaller craft that descended toward major cities. At the same time, Rax sent another message to Earth's leaders. Your resistance is noted but futile. To demonstrate our power, we will now disable 3 small cities. If full cooperation is not received within 1 hour, we will target your largest population centers. True to his word, energy beams shot from 3 Talon ships. The cities of Bremen, Nagoya, and Durban were hit with weapons that disabled all electronics but caused no direct deaths. In the underground command center, Earth's leaders watched grimly. They're being careful not to kill people directly, said June. They want Earth intact. Director Ta nodded. They see us as resources, not equals. He turned to the others. Are we ready to respond? Engineer Sook Kim checked her tablet, which ran on a shielded system. EMP weapons are in position, waiting for your command. Intelligence Officer Ji Kang reported next. False targets are active. Talons are deploying troops exactly where we predicted. Colonel Dai smiled grimly. Our forces are in position. The old weapons are ready. Director Todd took a deep breath. The Talons think we'll surrender because they've disabled our advanced systems. They don't understand that humans have been fighting wars since before we had electricity. He looked at each face in the room. Let them come down to our planet. Let them step on our soil with their proud feet. Then we will show them how dangerous primitive humans can be. He turned to Captain Jun. Begin the counterattack. June nodded and picked up an old radio handset. All units, this is Sword Actual. Commence Operation Thunderbolt. I repeat, commence Operation Thunderbolt. Across the world, hidden human forces prepared to strike as Talon ships descended through Earth's atmosphere, their crews confident in an easy victory over a helpless, primitive world. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Talon landing ships descended toward Earth's major cities. Inside each ship, soldiers checked their energy weapons. Their commanders had told them this would be easy. The primitive humans had lost all their advanced systems. Victory was certain. They were wrong. As the first Talon ship approached New York, a simple metal projectile, fired from an old cannon that used gunpowder, not electricity, smashed through its side. The ship spun and crashed into the empty harbor. Similar scenes played out across the globe. Talon ships, their shields designed to stop energy weapons, found themselves hit by simple metal bullets, shells, and rockets, weapons so old that the Talons had not bothered to defend against them. In orbit, Commander Rax watched in shock as landing craft began to fall. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Their defense systems should be disabled." "Sir," a Talon officer replied, "they're using weapons that don't need computers or power grids. Mechanical weapons, chemical explosives." "Impossible," Rax said. "Such weapons are too weak to harm our ships." But the evidence was clear on the screens before him. More Talon craft were falling. And now, strange signals were coming from the ground. On Earth, Colonel Dayun directed the first phase of defense from a mobile command post, an old train powered by coal, not electricity. "Target the landing zones," he ordered through a hand-cranked radio. "Use the rail guns now." Across the countryside, hidden weapons emerged from barns, hills, and forests. Long metal tubes pointed skyward. These were rail guns, weapons that used simple magnetic fields to fire metal slugs at incredible speeds. The Talons had seen these during inspections, but dismissed them as primitive prototypes. Now those primitive weapons fired at Talon ships. Metal slugs moving at hypersonic speeds slammed into alien hulls. The ship's shields, designed to stop energy blasts, did nothing against solid metal moving faster than sound. In Seoul, Captain Jum Kim led a ground team against Talon soldiers who had managed to land. "Remember your training," he told his soldiers. "Their armor stops energy weapons but not bullets, and use the EMP grenades first." As a group of Talon soldiers moved down an empty street, Jum's team threw small devices toward them. The devices popped with a soft sound. No explosion, no fire, just a pulse of electromagnetic energy. The Talon soldiers stumbled as their weapons and communication systems died. Before they could recover, Jum's team opened fire with simple guns, weapons that used chemical reactions to fire metal bullets, technology thousands of years old on Earth. The Talons fell, their advanced armor useless against such primitive attacks. Meanwhile, Engineer Suk Kim monitored the larger battle from a bunker. "The first EMP satellite is in position," she reported to Director Ta. "Ready to fire on your command." Ta nodded. "Wait until their main fleet commits to the attack. We want to catch as many ships as possible." In orbit, Commander Rax had lost patience. "This resistance cannot stand," he said. "Prepare the main fleet for atmospheric entry. We will end this now." 300 Talon warships began to descend toward Earth, their weapons powered up, ready to strike at the annoying humans who dared to resist. In the command bunker, Lieutenant Hannah Park watched the ships on an old radar screen. "They're taking the bait," she said. "Main fleet is entering the upper atmosphere." Director Ta looked at Suk. "Now." Suk pressed a button on her console. In space, a small satellite that the Talons had ignored fired an old nuclear missile. The missile rose to the edge of space, then detonated. No city was destroyed. No land was burned. But a massive pulse of electromagnetic energy washed over the Talon fleet. Ship after ship lost power. Weapons went dead. engines failed. Like metal raindrops, Talon ships began to fall from the sky. In the command bunker, the humans watched in silence. Then Colonel Dai spoke. "Phase 1 complete," he said. "Beginning Phase 2, capture of disabled Talon ships." The counterattack had begun, and the Talons were learning a hard lesson. Never underestimate a species just because their technology seems outdated. 3 days into the war, Commander Rax faced a situation he had never expected. Half the Talon fleet was disabled or destroyed. Ground forces were meeting fierce resistance everywhere they landed. And the humans, who should have surrendered quickly, were fighting back with surprising strength. How are they coordinating without central command? Rax demanded, slamming his fist on a control panel. "We disabled all their advanced communications." His tactical officer looked troubled. "Sir, they appear to be using methods we didn't account for. Runners carrying written messages, signal fires on hills, radio technology so old that our jammers don't affect it." Rax growled in frustration. The humans were supposed to be dependent on their digital technology, but they had fallen back on methods from their past. Simple yet effective ways to fight that didn't need computers or power grids. On Earth, Lieutenant Hannah Park led a special team through a forest near a crashed Talon ship. Her soldiers carried simple weapons, rifles, grenades, and special EMP devices designed by Suk Kim. "Remember," she told her team, "our goal is to capture their technology intact. Use EMPs first, then bullets only if necessary." They approached the crashed ship carefully. Talon survivors had set up a defensive position, their energy weapons glowing in the darkness. Hannah signaled to her team. They threw small canisters that released thick smoke, not high-tech smoke with nanobots, just simple chemicals burning. The Talon sensors, designed to see through electronic countermeasures, couldn't penetrate the primitive smoke. While the aliens were blinded, Hannah's team activated EMP devices that disabled the Talon weapons. Then they moved in quickly. 20 minutes later, Hannah radioed back to base using an old-style radio. "Ship secured. 6 prisoners taken. Technical team requested for data extraction." Across the planet, similar scenes played out as human forces captured Talon technology. Engineer Suk Kim worked day and night studying the alien devices, learning how to use them and how to defeat them. Meanwhile, Intelligence Officer Ji Kang focused on another aspect of the war: information. The Talons relied heavily on their AI systems to make tactical decisions. Ji found ways to feed false data into their networks. Their combat AIs follow patterns, Jai explained to Director Ta. They're advanced but predictable. Human commanders using intuition and creative thinking can outmaneuver them. Colonel Da-Yoon put this insight to good use. Instead of fighting the way the Talons expected, with armies meeting in open battle, he used guerrilla tactics. Small teams struck quickly and disappeared. Decoys drew Talon forces into traps. Supply lines were cut by simple attacks. "The Talons expect us to fight like they do," Dad told his officers. "But humans have been fighting asymmetric wars for thousands of years. We know how to be the smaller, weaker force and still win." The Talons became increasingly frustrated. Their superior technology, which had conquered many worlds, was being countered by humans using techniques and weapons that should have been obsolete. On the 7th day of the war, Commander Rax received a disturbing report. Human forces had captured a Talon communications hub. Worse, they had figured out how to use Talon technology against them. "Sir," a Talon officer reported, "the humans are using our own ships now. They've adapted quickly to our controls." Rax stared at the battle displays in disbelief. This was not how the invasion was supposed to go. The humans were primitive. Their weapons were outdated. Their tactics should have been predictable. Yet they were winning. In the Earth Defense Headquarters, now relocated to a simple underground bunker, Captain Jun Kim reported to Director Ta. "We've secured control of 12 Talon vessels," he said. "Suk's team has learned how to operate their basic systems, and we've captured their regional command codes." Director Ta nodded. And casualties. High, Joan admitted, but much lower than the Talons expected. Their weapons are designed to fight other advanced species. Many don't work well against our primitive defenses. Ta looked at the simple paper map on the wall, where small flags showed the position of forces. The Talons still have their main command ship and about 40% of their fleet. They'll be planning something desperate now. Let them come, said Colonel Dai, entering the room. We're ready for Phase 3. Outside, human forces continued to fight, not with the weapons the Talons had expected, but with the ingenuity and adaptability that had helped humanity survive on Earth for thousands of years. 2 weeks into the war, Commander Rax called his remaining officers to the main command ship. His large eyes were dark with anger as he paced the bridge. "This is unacceptable," he said. "We have lost nearly half our forces to a primitive species using outdated weapons." He stopped and looked at the tactical display showing Earth. "The High Command demands we end this quickly." "Sir," said his second-in-command, "perhaps we should request reinforcements." "No." Rax slammed his fist down. "I will not admit defeat to savages who still use chemical weapons and radio waves. We will commit our entire remaining fleet to a final attack. Target their largest military bases and government centers simultaneously. No more careful tactics. Overwhelming force." The officers nodded. The plan was set. The Talon fleet, still powerful despite its losses, would gather for one massive strike. On Earth, Intelligence Officer Ji Kang detected the change in Talon ship movements. "They're regrouping," he told Director Tai and the others in the command bunker, "moving all remaining ships to high orbit over the North Pacific." Colonel Dai studied the patterns. "They're preparing for a major attack, probably targeting our remaining military bases." Director Tai looked at each person in the room. "This is what we've been waiting for. They're bringing all their ships together." He turned to Engineer Suk Kim. "Are the special weapons ready?" Suk nodded. 5 nuclear EMP devices positioned in orbit, disguised as space debris. The Talons haven't noticed them. "And our boarding teams?" Tai asked Captain Jun. "Ready and waiting," Jun replied. "Lieutenant Hana has trained them on Talon ship layouts using the vessels we've captured." Director Tai took a deep breath. "Begin Operation Lightning." Across the globe, human forces appeared to retreat. Military bases were evacuated. Important targets were left seemingly undefended. To the Talons watching from orbit, it looked like the humans were finally giving up. Commander Rax smiled as he watched the reports come in. "You see, they know they cannot win. They are running away." He turned to his fleet commanders on the screen. "Begin the final attack. All ships, descend to attack altitude." The remaining Talon fleet, 93 warships, moved into Earth's upper atmosphere in perfect formation. Their weapons powered up, ready to deliver the knockout blow to human resistance. From his command bunker, Director Tai watched on old radar screens as the Talon ships moved exactly where he wanted them. "Now," he said quietly. Suk pressed a button on her console. In space, 5 small objects that had looked like harmless debris suddenly activated. They were nuclear weapons, not aimed at Earth, but designed to explode in space. As they detonated, they created no fire or blast wave in the vacuum. Instead, they released enormous electromagnetic pulses. The wave of energy washed over the Talon fleet. Ship after ship lost power. Weapons died. Engines failed. Communication systems went silent. On the Talon command ship, Commander Rax watched in horror as his fleet went dark around him. Emergency systems kept his own ship partially functional, but the rest of the fleet hung helpless in the sky. "What is happening?" he demanded. Before anyone could answer, his tactical officer shouted, "Sir, human ships approaching." They're our own vessels." The ships that approached the disabled Talon fleet were indeed Talon vessels, captured earlier and now piloted by humans. They moved among the helpless ships, attaching to airlocks and cutting through hulls. Captain Jun Kim led the boarding of the Talon command ship. His team, equipped with simple gas masks and bullet weapons, faced little resistance from Talon soldiers whose energy weapons had been disabled by the EMP. Jun fought his way to the bridge, where Commander Rax stood in shock. "Impossible," Rax whispered as human soldiers entered his command center. "Your weapons are primitive. Your technology is outdated." Jun smiled as he pointed his simple gun at the alien commander. "That's where you made your mistake. You thought our weapons defined our strength." He stepped closer. "But humanity's real weapon has always been here." He tapped his head. "We adapt. We overcome. We use what works, not what looks impressive." As Commander Rax was taken prisoner, Earth forces secured the disabled Talon fleet. The tide of war had turned completely. 1 month after the capture of Commander Rax, Earth had changed forever. Talon ships no longer threatened cities. Instead, they sat in fields and deserts, studied by human scientists. The war was over. Now came the hard part: peace. In a large meeting room that once belonged to the United Nations, Director Tali faced the captured Talon leaders. Commander Rax sat in front, his hands bound with simple metal cuffs. Nothing high-tech, just steel that he couldn't break. "The terms are simple," Director Ta said. "All Talon forces will leave Earth space. You will return to your homeworld with a message. Earth is not available for conquest." Commander Rax glared at the human leader. "And if we refuse?" Ta smiled. "Then you stay here as our prisoners while we use your ships to visit your homeworld ourselves. We've already learned how to fly them quite well." Behind Ta stood Captain Jun Kim, Lieutenant Hana Park, Colonel Da Yoon, Engineer Suk Kim, and Intelligence Officer Ji Kang, the team that had led Earth to victory. Suk stepped forward, holding a data device. "We've studied your records. There are 17 other species you've conquered using the same tactics you tried here. We've sent messages to all of them, sharing what we've learned about Talon weaknesses." Jai added, "We've also contacted the Kreth Coalition, the alliance of species you falsely labeled as aggressors. They're quite interested in forming a real alliance with Earth." Commander Rax's face showed shock for the first time. "You contacted the Kreth?" "Impossible. Not for humans who adapt quickly," Jun said. "Your communication systems work quite well once we figured them out." Rax looked down at the table. "What do you want?" Director Tai sat across from the alien commander. "Peace, freedom for the worlds you've conquered, and knowledge. We want to learn about the galaxy, but as equals, not as servants." 3 days later, a small group of Talon ships, now under human control, left Earth. They carried Commander Rax and his officers back to their homeworld, along with representatives from Earth and the newly liberated planets. As the ships prepared to leave, Captain Jun found Lieutenant Hana looking at the stars from an observation deck. "Thinking about the future?" he asked, standing beside her. Hana nodded. "Everything has changed. We're not alone anymore. And we're about to meet dozens of new civilizations. Are you worried?" She smiled. "No. If the war taught us anything, it's that humans can handle challenges, even from species with far more advanced technology." Jun nodded, "Because we don't just rely on one approach. We keep old tools alongside new ones. We adapt." "The Talons never understood that," Hana said. "They thought newer always meant better." On the bridge of the ship, Director Tai prepared for departure. Colonel Dai would stay on Earth to organize defense. Suk and Ji would continue studying Talon technology. But Tai, Jun, and Hana would go to the stars. "Ready for the jump to faster than light?" asked the human pilot, who had learned to operate the Talon ship in just weeks. Ta nodded. "Take us out." As the ship accelerated away from Earth, Tai thought about how quickly humans had learned to use Talon technology. Already, Earth scientists were combining alien science with human creativity, creating new devices that even the Talons hadn't imagined. In the ship's holding area, Commander Rax watched on a screen as Earth disappeared behind them. A human guard noticed his gaze. Beautiful, isn't it? The guard said. Hard to believe you thought it would be easy to conquer. Rax turned away. We made a mistake. We judged your civilization by its technology, not its spirit. 3 weeks later, the Earth ships arrived at the Talon homeworld. Representatives from the Kreth Coalition were already there, waiting to meet the humans who had done what no other species had managed, defeated the Talon Empire with outdated weapons and creative thinking. As Captain Jun and Lieutenant Hannah, now married, prepared for the historic meeting, Jun adjusted his simple uniform. He carried no energy weapon, just a basic pistol at his side, a reminder of the lesson Earth had taught the galaxy. Ready to show the universe what humans can do? Hannah asked. Jun smiled and took her hand. They thought our weapons were outdated, but they never understood. Humanity's greatest weapon has always been here. He tapped his head, then his heart, and here. Together, they stepped forward to take humanity's place among the stars.